Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Climate Conversations. I'm Erica.
And I'm Marco. Thanks for joining us again. We have a lot more to discuss about climate change.
Last time, we talked about what climate change is, its causes, and some solutions. Today, we'll dive deeper into more topics. Let's start with something important: climate justice. Marco, what is climate justice?
Climate justice means that we think about fairness when we talk about climate change. Some people and countries are more affected by climate change than others. Often, the people who are least responsible for causing climate change suffer the most.
That's a good point. Can you give us an example?
Sure, many small island nations are at risk because of rising sea levels. These countries didn't cause much of the pollution, but they are suffering a lot. It's important to help these places adapt and protect themselves.
So, climate justice is about making sure everyone is treated fairly and gets help. What can we do to support climate justice?
We can support policies and actions that help vulnerable communities. This includes supporting international agreements like the Paris Agreement and helping with financial aid for adaptation and mitigation projects.
Speaking of adaptation, let's explain what that means. What is climate adaptation?
Climate adaptation means making changes to live with the effects of climate change. This can include building seawalls to protect against rising sea levels or changing farming practices to deal with new weather patterns.
That makes sense. What about mitigation? How is it different from adaptation?
Mitigation means taking actions to reduce or prevent the causes of climate change. This includes reducing greenhouse gas emissions by using renewable energy or increasing energy efficiency.
So, adaptation is about adjusting to changes, and mitigation is about stopping more changes from happening. Both are important. Let's talk about another topic: the role of technology in fighting climate change. How can technology help?
Technology can help in many ways. For example, new technologies can make renewable energy cheaper and more efficient. Electric cars are getting better and more affordable, which helps reduce emissions from transportation.
What are some other technologies that can help?
Smart grids can make our electricity use more efficient. Carbon capture and storage (CCS) can capture carbon dioxide from power plants and store it underground. There's also technology for better batteries to store renewable energy.
It's amazing what technology can do, but it's not just about technology. We also need changes in policies and behaviors. Let's talk about environmental policies. What are some important policies for fighting climate change?
Governments can create laws and regulations to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. This can include setting limits on emissions, supporting renewable energy, and encouraging energy efficiency.
What about carbon pricing? How does that work?
Carbon pricing means putting a price on carbon emissions. This can be done through a carbon tax or a cap-and-trade system. The idea is to make it more expensive to pollute, so people and companies have an incentive to reduce their emissions.
That sounds like a good idea. Now, let's talk about individual actions. What can we do in our daily lives to help fight climate change?
We can do many things. For example, we can reduce our energy use by turning off lights and appliances when we don't need them. We can also use energy-efficient products and insulate our homes to save energy.
And what about our food choices?
Eating less meat and more plant-based foods can reduce our carbon footprint. We can also buy local and seasonal food to reduce the emissions from transporting food long distances.
Another big topic is waste. How can we reduce waste in our lives?
We can reduce waste by buying less, reusing items, and recycling. It's also important to compost food scraps if we can. Reducing single-use plastics and using reusable bags, bottles, and containers can make a big difference.
Those are great tips. Now, let's talk about something that affects many people: climate change and health. How does climate change impact our health?
Climate change can affect health in many ways. Extreme heat can cause heat stroke and other health problems. Poor air quality from pollution can lead to respiratory issues. Climate change can also increase the spread of diseases carried by insects, like malaria and dengue fever.
That's really concerning. What can we do to protect our health?
We can stay informed about climate-related health risks and take precautions. For example, we can stay hydrated and avoid outdoor activities during extreme heat. We can also support policies that reduce air pollution.
It's important to be aware of these risks. Now, let's shift to a more positive topic. How can communities come together to fight climate change?
Communities can work together in many ways. They can create local renewable energy projects, start community gardens, and organize events to raise awareness about climate change.
I love the idea of community gardens. They provide fresh food and bring people together. What other community actions can make a difference?
Communities can also advocate for local policies that support sustainability, like improved public transportation or better waste management systems. Working together can make these efforts more effective.
That's true. Now, let's talk about the role of education in fighting climate change. How can schools and universities contribute?
Schools and universities can teach students about climate change and sustainability. They can also lead by example by using renewable energy, reducing waste, and promoting sustainable practices on campus.
Education is so important. It empowers the next generation to take action. Speaking of action, let's talk about activism. How can people get involved in climate activism?
People can join or support environmental organizations, participate in climate marches and protests, and use social media to raise awareness. Every voice counts in the fight against climate change.
That's inspiring. Now, let's answer some more questions from our listeners. Our first question is from Raj in India. He asks, how does deforestation contribute to climate change?
Great question, Raj. Deforestation means cutting down trees, which reduces the number of trees that can absorb carbon dioxide. This increases the amount of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere and contributes to global warming.
Thanks, Marco. Our next question is from Sarah in Canada. She asks, what is sustainable agriculture?
Sustainable agriculture means farming in ways that are good for the environment and society. It includes practices like crop rotation, using fewer chemicals, conserving water, and protecting soil health.
That's important for our food systems. Our last question is from Ahmed in Egypt. He asks, what are green buildings?
Green buildings are designed to be environmentally friendly. They use energy and water efficiently, reduce waste, and provide a healthy indoor environment. They can include features like solar panels, energy-efficient lighting, and green roofs.
Those are all great questions. We've covered a lot of ground today. Before we wrap up, do you have any final thoughts, Marco?
Yes, Erica, climate change is a huge challenge, but we can all play a part in solving it. By making small changes in our daily lives and working together, we can make a big difference. Let's stay informed, stay motivated, and keep pushing for a better future.
Well said, Marco. Thanks, everyone, for listening to Climate Conversations. We hope you learned something new today.
Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast and share it with your friends. See you next time.
Goodbye, our lovely audience. See you again in episode 3. Just do subscribe to get notification.